Hello again. So we are going to finish up compensating the flexible workforce today. All right, flexible scheduling. So flex time says within the day, an 8 to 5 day, that people don't actually need to be there 8 to 5. The core hours here, generally in companies, it's come somewhere around that 10 to 2 range, but some people are early morning people and they would rather get in at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning and then leave early. So they're still getting their 8 hours a day in, but it's flexible in start and end times. The compressed work week, on the other hand, says that you might work 4 10-hour days, or when I used to work at the Heart Association during the summer, we would get half a day off on Friday. My mother worked for the federal government and she had 9-hour days and would get every other Friday off. Okay, so just as an illustration, here is a calendar, right? So you have the days and the hours here. So flexible scheduling is the vertical axis. So we might be changing when we're starting. So we could go, say, 6 to 3, or we could go 10 to 7, as long as we're covering these core hours. All right, the horizontal axis, that's your compressed work week. So here, right, it's going to say now we're taking it here 4 days a week, but it's going to be for a longer period within that week. I mean, it's within each day. All right, so a little comp in the news. This was a little over or about a year ago. Microsoft Japan had been experimenting with this 4-day a week. Now, it wasn't actually compressed because they didn't have to work the full 40 hours. They were just working regular 8 to 5 hours, 4 days a week. But they were given these 5 Friday offs, same pay, but productivity for them rose 40%. Why? It's because people were laser focused on high value tasks. Okay, they shortened or eliminated meetings. They reduced a lot of the administrative work, so people weren't going, I've got extra time here, so I'm going to go and check my Facebook page, whatever. Less stress, happier, more productive people. There's a trust and respect, which also adds to people's engagement. And then just an overall reduction in operating costs because you're not spending all that money on excess usage of, say, electricity or overhead. Now, there's actually a company in town here that does some similar work, and they really found it to be very beneficial. All right, flexible scheduling. When is telecommuting appropriate? So telecommuting is what we're doing now, all of us working from home. So under normal circumstances, right, when not everybody is working from home, telecommuting is appropriate for that work that doesn't require regular, direct, interpersonal contact with other people, either customers or other employees. So a receptionist's job is really difficult to do by telecommuting. An accountant's job is probably pretty easy to do telecommuting, okay? So why do people like telecommuting? So again, I used to do that when I worked for the Heart Association, absolutely loved it. Why? You are saving money. You're saving money on get your dry cleaning. You're saving money on commuting costs. Any kind of parking that needs to happen depending on where you live. It is so much more convenient. You know, I used to be able to walk 8 miles a day when I worked from home because that extra time could go into me being more physically fit and having more family time. You are kind of separated from office politics and people just, you know, doing dropping in and talking about things that aren't productive. So people are actually more productive when they are at home. Okay, so possible disadvantages. We actually are human beings, right? We like having human interaction. So it is helpful whenever people are together. There's an energy there that people will miss if they don't have that. Even, meeting through Zoom or other great technologies is just not the same. Performance appraisals are much more difficult to do because I can't, your boss can't actually see you, can't see what you're doing, can't see how hard you're working. So you've got to reevaluate what that looks like and really be able to focus on outcomes versus process. And for some people, it really disrupts family time, right? It's difficult to know when are you at work and when are you at home with your family. Should you be checking that email? Should you be working on this project? Because your office is just right there. So for some people, it makes it much more difficult. So right now, in the midst of this COVID-19 situation, Congress is actually wrestling with remote work challenges, right? They're trying to pass all these laws, these stimulus bills, trying to help the country out, but also they've got to watch out for their own health and abide by social distancing, and they're just not sure how to do that, right? So they've been working, trying to figure out what's going to be the best way to have these remote hearings and votes, and also worry about hackers or people who might take advantage of that situation. All right, so what do all of these companies have in common? Well, these companies used to have vast telecommuting opportunities, and they have reined those in. Some of them have completely done away with any kind of telecommuting. So, for example, IBM basically invented telecommuting, and they said if you are a marketer or an engineer or other types of professionals like that, they required that these people go to one of their 6 hubs. So think about it, if you're IBM, you can be telecommuting from anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world, and now you have to move to one of these locations or be fired. And that was how it was. Yahoo took a whole bunch of slack because they went from all kinds of telecommuting to bringing everybody in. So why did they do this? Primarily, it was because competitively they were falling behind, and they were like, there's a special sauce when people come together and collaborate with one another. There's an energy, there's an innovation, there are things that have to be done. That brainstorming session, whenever you are just stopping by to see somebody, it might help you solve this problem. And so they want people to be co-located. So what are some of the legal implications of all of this different kind of contingent work, flexible employees? Well, first of all, the Fair Labor Standards Act. The Fair Labor Standards Act was enacted quite a while ago, right? When you had a very standard 5-day-a-week, 40 hours a week working week. It was normal to do that, whereas now it isn't. So because of that, if there is flexibility, that leaves companies open to perhaps either under or over paying in terms of overtime pay, because each week may not include 40 hours for this particular employee. Their work may vary week to week in terms of those numbers of hours, but it averages out over the month to 40 hours a week. So there are certain provisions that would allow an employer to guarantee some form of fixed weekly wage for these flexible employees, even if they are non-exempt. All right, so how can flexible scheduling negatively affect employee benefits? Again, this is primarily related to paid time off. So because you accrue time based on the number of hours that you are working. And so again, if it varies quite a bit, that makes it really much more difficult for HR to keep track of that. And think about holidays. Think about, maybe you get every Thursday off. Well, Thanksgiving happens to fall on a Thursday. Or at the university, the people that do such an amazing job of cleaning our facilities, they don't work 8 to 5. So the thing is that you just, as an organization, you need certain policies in place that provide flexible workers with comparable paid time off benefits that is just allows them to maintain that equity while coordinating these different schedules. Working condition fringe benefits, that is for telecommuters. And so right now, I've got a webcam, I've got my monitor, actually I have two monitors, I have my desktop here, I have my remote mouse and keyboard, and all of these things I took from work. I am not being taxed for that because what I'm doing right now is telecommuting. So working condition fringe benefits is really a tax break. It's saying here I'm going to have all of this equipment in my house, but it is not taxable to me because it's required for me to do my job. However, if it falls outside of my established telecommuting relationship and I have some other forms of equipment here, then that would be, that if the organization bought it for me, that would be taxable, okay? So more comp in the news, just to give you a sense of scope, okay? So Google employs 102,000 full-time or core employees. They employ 121,000 temps and contractors. So they work side by side, but core employees have all the benefits of working for Google, whereas those temporary employees or contractors do not. Okay, so they have different benefit plans, no paid vacation in the US, etc. So because of this, Google is able to save, it's estimated, $100,000 a year per American job. That is quite a bit, and that is why an employer might choose to do this. So we talked before about it's allows the employer to have a lot more flexibility, but it also saves that employer a lot of money. So, unions. Do unions support this? No, they really don't. Not very often, right? Because they consider what the employer is doing to be kind of unethical or unfair, or at least it prevents or it provides the risk of being unfair. So, they're really worried that these employers are going to exploit these contingent workers, or it's cheap labor, and so it might actually hamper competitiveness because maybe they're not as good or they're not being trained as much, right? Obviously, if they're a union, it makes it more difficult to organize part-time workers or contingent workers. It could actually erode labor standards, meaning, again, the quality of work. We've got to be really careful with that. There's safety issues associated with that. So, I think that really, what they're worried about are employee issues, but they can't organize these people in the same way because they're not employees. They are contractors or temp workers. So it's pretty obvious how these contingent workers help with cost savings, as we've talked about, but could they actually contribute to innovation? And I think the answer to that is yes. Think about how great it would be. Again, these independent contractors can bring in new ideas, new energies. They're working with other employers, and so they have seen what other people are doing, and they can bring fresh perspectives into your organization, right? Very, very creative, open-minded, probably fairly good with risk-taking, and I think all that is great, right? And physically speaking, it allows employees to work when they are at their peak. Again, some people like to be early morning people, some people are, midnight people. And it also allows people to work with fewer distractions. Again, people are more productive at home oftentimes than they are at work. Okay, that was chapter 12, guys. You did a great job. Thank you.